So this evening I'm going to talk through a piece of the work that I do focuses on, as Nikki said, on the what we call past life regression, but of course that's actually more like a parallel regression. There is no time, but that's a whole other field of quantum science that I am not going to be giving you this evening. But just suffice to say that most of us think of things as linear, but of course they're not. And so when we access something like our Akashic records, or we are experiencing certain memories, then it's in this time and in this space, and so it's very in the body. It's very embodied, is what I want to say. Anyway, we'll get into this. I'm also going to share some of my own spiritual journey, some of the experiences that I've had, because I had a lot of spontaneous regressions, which were pretty wild and pretty crazy at the time. I absolutely thought I was going a little crazy at the time, and I had a wonderful mentor who was able to support me and help me work through those. And that was like, I don't know, 30 something years ago, giving it away now. Anyway, what the way that we'll do this presentation is I'll run through slides, we'll have the talk and discussion, and then I'm hoping to be able to do a meditative drop-in regression session with you if you'd like to do that, and then we can have questions at the end. So we'll see how it all goes. This is a beautiful piece that for me really brings a lot of things together. It's from Leonard Jacobson's book, Words from Silence. All of your past selves are walking behind you, like a shadow, waiting for you to awaken fully, waiting for you to return home to the oneness, to love, wisdom, silence, and compassion. It's not just the child who is walking behind you. All the identities from past incarnations are still with you. The seeker, the pirate, the highwayman, the sage, each of them applauding every step you take. And should you in this lifetime go further along the path of awakening than ever before, then all of your past life identities go with you. Your learning is their learning. Your fulfillment is their fulfillment. Your completion is their completion. For they have been on the same journey as you. Your return home is their return home, and they will surrender lovingly into you. For you are the true master. You have found the way upon their behalf. They will disappear into you. The past will disappear into the present. There is only one journey, the journey of the soul.
May I take a picture of that?
You may. And actually, if anybody would like this as a PDF, the full slides, pop your email on the sheet that I have, and I'll gladly email the whole thing to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we know the term reincarnation, known as rebirth or transmigration even, and it is the concept that the non-physical essence of a living being begins a new life in a different physical form or body after death. And there are many, many religions around the world, and culturally, this is something that's deeply embedded in many, many different indigenous societies and countries. And it's so interesting to me to see how this has changed and disappeared, certainly in the Western world. But the soul is seen as immortal, and that the only thing that becomes perishable is the body. And upon death, the soul becomes transmigrated into a new infant to live again. The term transmigration means passing of soul from one body to another after death. This is Wikipedia. I thought it was pretty good. It's like, yeah, it's a surprise. Just a couple of historical points of interest. In ancient Greece, Pythagoras and Plato were both reincarnationists. They believed in reincarnation, and Pythagoras was said to remember 8 of his past lives. I can top that. Plato believed there's a conscious process to life selection when reincarnating. And the work that I do with the life between life, and certainly with Michael Newton and quantum hypnotherapy, that was Dolores Cannon's work, we know that there is that process of selecting and selecting the life that we would like to come into. But that's a whole other story. But it is also fascinating. I don't know if you know, but at the beginning of the Christian era, reincarnation was one of the pillars of early belief. And church elders and theologians, and I'll probably not do this so good, but Origenes, Basilides, and St. Gregory taught reincarnation of the soul as a matter of course. In other words, it was in text, it was in the Bible, it was a known fact in those times. And so what happened? Well, in and around 553 AD, a major turning point in Christianity, the recognition of reincarnation was declared a doctrine of heresy. This was a maneuver by the emperor for political gain and control. And up to that point, reincarnation was acknowledged and was said to be a fundamental teaching of Christ. And that was from Clare Elizabeth Prophet. And we do know that it has been, in and out of culture, in and out of societies, this idea that we reincarnate, that we've all had many, many lifetimes. So, and just to make a point about, this term past life, which I will continually use, but just to say that it isn't entirely accurate, and it's because the past does not exist in a quantum state. There's no time in that quantum state. Time's in a circle, so we're always looking at the potentials of now. And healing in the now cuts through all timelines. And so when we bring things into the now, whether it's from this quantum space that things come into us to heal, they may get our attention. And I'll describe this in a little more of my own process. But being able to heal what essentially was what we believe was in the past is really incredible and wonderful. I've got to say a little bit about Edgar Cayce, of course. And Edgar Cayce, his approach to reincarnation focused on practical ways of dealing with life in the here and now. Again, bringing it to consciousness in the here and now. And by living, growing, and being of service in the present. And as he said, it's not nearly so important who we've been, so much as how our past actions affect present conditions and what opportunities and challenges we face because of it. And so many clients that come to me to have this experience of healing in the quantum space, healing what they've come for, which is a past life issue, it's manifesting as sometimes illness, it could be disease, or it could be something like fear of flying, fear of water. It could be simple things that we don't always think. I had a lady that came who was having to do a presentation, and she was really scared of it. And I understand the why, I get that. Standing up in front of people and doing a talk. But her fear went beyond just nerves. It was paralyzing for her, and she couldn't get out of this talk. So she came for a session, and we went through a few different times, and the one that really stood out was for her was an experience of coming up onto a huge, what she thought was a stage, and then she realized, I'm in France. This is the guillotine. I'm going to get executed. And she's being witnessed by this huge crowd in front of her. So yeah, it kind of left, a traumatic imprint. But what was so wonderful was once we'd healed that event, in the now moment, she was able to do her presentation and had no problems after that with getting up in front of people and in front of crowds. So whether we kind of go with the story or not, the fact is that we hold something within us that we're buying into, we believe it, and it's affecting us very deeply and very strongly. I know that many people talk about, well, I was Nero or I was Caesar, or, and we have those kinds of things. Like I tell a lot of my clients, it's let's not get hung up on the historical notion or historical past. What really truly matters is what is embedded within you. What is coming up for healing within you? What is that experience telling you, and what is it that's impacting and affecting you? So I want to just clarify something about what the human Akash is said to be. And I don't know if you know Lee Carroll's work. He channels Cryon. He's been around for a long, long time and has some incredible and beautiful body of work. But he suggests that when we incarnate into a human body, we remain connected to this higher dimensional aspect. I prefer the term higher self. We might call it Holy Spirit. Whatever term is your preference, it's a divine aspect that is, at the core of us. And some call it the I am presence. When entering a body, we have imprinted within our DNA a multi-dimensional record of all of our lives. So this is that quantum component. It's a quantum record that contains also attributes. We always think of, past lives and the kind of images or situations that might come up as being pretty horrible, pretty like, being guillotined or whatever. But there's also, within our whole quantum aspect, there are these wonderful attributes, things that you might not have considered. And I've had experiences with individuals who really needed to get in touch with joy and hadn't been able to connect to joy. And I had one lady, and we went back through different lifetime experiences, but really mainly to just pull out an experience or this attribute of being to connect to joy. And we found something, and it really impressed upon her and changed everything dramatically for her, because in that moment she could feel it. It was a full body experience of having, within her, I feel it. I feel the joy. I haven't felt like this in years. Is it going to stay? Can I hold on to it? Well, of course we can. Once it's there, once we've got hold of it. So we have so many different things within us that we have no idea that we can access, that we can bring alive within us. And so when we talk about the human Akash, we're talking about more than just a story around a lifetime. We're talking about attributes, talents, abilities, our personal Akashic record. For myself, without getting into any long, lengthy experience, I got in touch with what we now call light language. Some call it star language, but it's a channeled sound or frequencies that come through me for healing, for shift, for change. And that was something I had no idea that I had until I was in a car accident. And it just opened something up within me, and it came through. So again, it was always with me. It was part of who I am. It was within my Akash. And once things got moving and going, I started accessing all of these other lifetimes where I had used this, where I was made high priestess in pyramids and all kinds of different things. So once we access sometimes these attributes that have been hidden to us, it can bring in other experiences and other situations for us. I don't know if any of you have had the experience of going somewhere and feeling like you've been there before, or having an experience that somewhere doesn't feel so good, because the earth does have and hold our Akash, our records, contained within the crystalline grid of the earth. And when I go back to the UK, I'm sorry UK, but this is just my experience. When I go back, there are certain places, especially in big cities, where there's such a high, strong energy, and I find it extremely uncomfortable being around certain places. When we're sensitive, we can pick up on certain things, and certainly, with houses, this is what a lot of mediums and psychics are able to do. They pick up on the energy of a place, and it's very much because that Akash that record of that space, everything is still with us. It doesn't disappear. The energetics are still there. So according to Lee Carroll, and this is again just really helping us to clarify what is our personal Akashic record, it's a multidimensional record of every life and all the energies of accomplishment, all the unfinished business relating to the life lessons, things like karmic group attributes. So when we have certain soul group attributes. I happen to be a highly sensitive person, very empathic. So my karmic group is very empathic. Those that I tune into or connect with are also that. All the talents and abilities from all lifetimes, which I've touched on, all our spiritual growth. Of course, we don't remember any of this. You know, we have forgotten, we fall into that forgetfulness. But there is this quantum record of what you've done and all your potentials to come. So yes, if we can tap into our Akash, then the possibilities are incredible at what we can heal and move through and also then bring through. Most commonly, past life regression and regressional hypnotherapy is used for healing, to healing old and emotional wounding. And hypnosis itself, it makes past life recall easier because we bypass the critical conscious mind to give access to the subconscious memory banks. The subconscious is not limited by our imposed boundaries of logic, space and time. It can remember everything from any time. And Dr. Brian Weiss has done a huge body of work for this. You may have heard of his book, Many Lives, Many Masters. That's just one, and I know we've got that one out here, but there are many, many more, just a huge body of information. Hypnoregression itself accesses different types of memories throughout the experience. So everybody's unique. You know, we're not all going to have the same experience or the same visceral feelings and senses. Some people will focus more on the cerebral memory itself, the facts, the data, the story, if you will. Some will really get that emotional component. That tends to be my way. Not always a great sense or feeling, but this is what happens to me. And so I feel the emotion. That's the thing that really comes in for me. Some it will be physical. And I've had people, you know, come to me, you know, I've just had this pain in my shoulder all this time. One I remember really specifically, it comes and goes. It's not there constant, but, you know, I seem to have, you know, it seems to have been around for many years. And for this gentleman, it happened to be, if you like, a traumatic imprint of when he had a spear through it and he was still holding that and carrying that round. Fascinating. So for him it was very physical, and that was his experience. So the soul memory itself is when we then pull all of this together, the understanding, the acceptance and the assimilation of those lessons. And so when we do regression for looking into whether it's to access the Akash or whether it's to go into another lifetime, another story, then any of this can be accessible to us. Any of these experiences based on, you know, who we are and what and how we operate. So I want to share a little bit too about, because my focus with my work tends to be grief and loss, the people that tends to come to me are generally carrying a huge amount of that. So in my work, I look very much at the grief that we carry through many different experiences. And Brian Weiss talked about that, you know, for him, when his patients remembered themselves in their other lives, the traumas that had brought them to see me in the first place were erased and in some cases cured. We don't realize that when trauma occurs to us and it remains unhealed, we experience grief. but certainly in our culture particularly, we have no idea how to process that properly, how to move that through us in a way that is natural and normal. And so when we have a great, huge experience of grief in our life, we've not only carried grief from childhood and through, but often it's like it opens a doorway. It's what I call a grief doorway opens, and other grief experiences come through, and it can be so overwhelming because sometimes there are all of these other lifetimes with this huge amount of carried grief that comes through. And these old traumas are in the energy field, are triggered when traumatic experiences and similar events occur in the current lifetime. And I will share with you some of my own personal experiences in a moment. What I know for myself is that the higher self, or Holy Spirit, whatever name you choose, informs me, informs us, that the current life events are occurring to assist in transformational healing. So when something happens, for me, I know that there's a real reason for this, and for me to work that through, to process that, to move that through. And it brings our attention to that embodied pain and suffering felt as unprocessed grief. And some of us have really deep layers of pain, sorrow, and grief that requires our attention. And when we can work that through in this lifetime, at that deep, deep level, it's like we're cutting through everything, cutting through all of those timelines. And sometimes we need to go back to a core life. You know, when did some of this really get anchored into our experience? And when we do that, it's like, wow, it's supposed to kind of collapse timelines. Like I say, I'm not a scientist, but in my experience, what that does is there's no need then to go through like every single life we've ever had. When we access that core, then the person will just feel uplifted and shifted, even though there might be still grief that they're processing within this current experience of this lifetime. So grief is always what we feel on the inside. It's the deep pain. It's the sorrow, the despair, anger, and hurt. So all of that intensity. And when we have any loss of relationship, job, or attachment, or some kind of trauma in our life, we really need to grieve that. And grieving is coming to terms with the loss and engaging the process. Processing of grief emotions is always the antidote to trauma. And that's from Dr. Gabor Mate. And when we mourn, that's the outward expression of that inner pain and suffering. But what like I say, because we're not used to doing that, particularly in our culture, we don't do this well at all. And so we do have to feel to heal, to embrace and allow that pain to surface. And so we do have to do that within these experiences when we access other lifetimes where we've had major trauma, where we've had big losses. There is that emotion that will come through, and we have to feel it to heal it and embrace that pain. Yeah. And then we take it to the next stage and the next place, which is ultimately we have to forgive. And the forgiveness is a forgiveness of self. And forgiveness is a really integral part of healing and processing, whether it's current grief or whether it's past grief, because we have to get to that place for us to come back into wholeness. And so forgiveness is practiced at what we call a radical or true level. It's not paying lip service to it, and that has to be done at that deep emotional place. So I'm going to get into some of my sharing and my story here, and talk a little bit about spontaneous past life recall. When we commit to a path of awakening for spiritual growth, it's like we're giving permission. We're setting an intention and willingness to do what needs to be done to heal and to grow at that spiritual level. And then we sometimes will get given information, downloads, or experiences that mean we have to work that, we have to heal that. Sometimes this results in having memories of other lifetime experiences, or things that don't make sense to us and we can't put together. It can be flashes, it can be just bizarre occurrences that we're coming in dream time and don't always make sense to us. And literally sometimes it will involve memories of other planets. I've had that in my experience, and I've had many clients experience this too. To speak of my own journey, it actually started when I was only around 11 or 12, and I was on a camping trip in Scotland with my parents, and there was an event that occurred and it triggered major nightmares. And it was really very disturbing and discomforting. I dreamt of whirlpools, and I was falling into them, and it was very disturbing for me at that age. But of course, I didn't have any way of processing or anyone to talk to about it, so I kind of closed that door, as we do. But it did open this doorway for me, which I then went back to 20 years later, which we'll get into. So. When I had decided that, yes, there's something more for me, I want to engage in my own spiritual healing, things really started going at a kind of crazy level for me. And I was introduced to this wonderful person who was a medium, clairvoyant and psychic. Couldn't have been more perfect for me at the time. I'd just gone through very nasty and messy divorce, miscarriage, and some other traumatic events. And this lady helped me with the current stuff, helped for me to work on that and those deep levels of grief and loss. I was in a very dark place. I went to a hypnotherapist. She was helping me, assisting me to work through that. But the real work, I call it the real work, the deep stuff for me, that came through this mentor who was actually very skilled at regression hypnosis. But what happened to me was really quite interesting. This lady, her name's Maureen, she was absolutely one of the greatest blessings for me in my life. She was somebody who was constantly accessing other dimensions and other realms, and would tell me all kinds of interesting information if we went out on a walk in the countryside. Oh, it's Henry VIII coming down the road there, and maybe we'll sit and see where he's going, what he's doing. But and at the time, I was in awe, and I didn't disbelieve her. This was a very genuine person, and I knew that this was her experience. And it awoke in me this this notion that there's more. There's more here than I know. And it actually, what it did was it started to trigger things within me, and started to let me know that there's more here for me to access. So when things really started for me, it was this trip to Scotland. So again, Scotland was instrumental for me. It wasn't that I was visiting the same place, but Scotland for me was something that triggered all of my memories to come back in. And I was off to a wedding. I wasn't planning doing this. I wasn't planning having any past life recall. But what happened, we'd taken just a small little bus in the Scottish Highlands to go to Findhorn. Anybody know Findhorn? Okay, so, and we happened to be kind of right in the middle of Scotland, North Scotland, and it was quite a journey. Talk about planes, trains and automobiles. But we set off on this little bus, and we were literally like here in the middle of nowhere on this. There was just a couple of other people on the bus with us, and just, going along. And all of a sudden, I could hear bagpipes loudly. And I was like, wow. I said, "Do you hear that?" And they're going, "What? What do you hear?" "You don't hear bagpipes? That's just so loud. How can you not hear the bagpipes?" And then almost instantly, I was hit right in the center of my heart by an energy, and it pushed me back into my seat. And all of a sudden, tears were just streaming. I was just pouring with emotion. I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea why I felt this way. And then I was shaking. So Maureen, bless her, like I say, thank goodness I had somebody with me who knew, you know, what was happening, or had the wherewithal to kind of, okay, let's, you know, just keep it calm for now, just breathe, Chris, just breathe right now, you know. But it had already started, and then I was getting flashes, and I was getting the memory coming through, and the memory was very traumatic. It was of a young boy out on the battlefield in full Scottish kit, with watching his older brothers and his father being slaughtered on the battlefield, and having to, you know, just run to get away, but he didn't get away, and so that was the first kind of trauma for me, that you know, deep grief and deep pain. But it wasn't the final piece for me. This was just getting things going, if you will. But in my experience, what is so interesting, we are all so different. I'm somebody who really, I often will experience it very physically. And so we carried on to Findhorn. You know, I was kind of keeping it all together, as the British say, pull yourself together, Chris, you know, have a cup of tea. And we went on to Findhorn, but when I got there, the physical effects for me were so kind of taking over. Excuse for this, but I just started throwing up. And I couldn't stop. And so they looked round Findhorn, and I just had to kind of scurry away and kind of stay in a place, and I was like, what's going on? What's happening to me? And fast forward to, you know, after all the wedding and everything like that, because, you know, I had to kind of shelve this. And then on the 8-hour journey home, my dear friend started to talk to me about her experiences and what had happened to her. And that too started to trigger memories for me. And so while we couldn't do anything, obviously, there and then, the first opportunity I went round to hers, and we sat, and she did a regression experience for me. And it was profound, because I went straight into a very deep core place, and I emitted this sound that was the loudest scream that you could ever hear without the police coming round. Because Maureen said her instinct was to get a pillow and just, you know, quiet me, because I'm just, you know, because I was full in it. I mean, I was just full in the experience. Luckily, she knew what to do. We joked, obviously, later. You know, she said, "Oh God, I thought they were going to come round with a straitjacket for you." You know, but my experience was, I was obviously ready. I was obviously ready to handle this, to work this, to move this through. And my experiences that were going on in my life, you know, the divorce and everything else, had really set off these events to start coming up and to get healing, to be healed. And so what occurred was this story of the knight and the lady, without getting into names and that kind of thing. For me, the most important thing is always, what are the elements around the story? And there was major deep loss, trauma, deep, deep grief. And I felt this, and it took me quite a while to process. Well, this was all new to me, you know. This was kind of how I started to learn about this whole subject, because I wanted to tell everybody, but let's face it, not everybody wants to hear about this subject. And friends would kind of sit there and they kind of look at me, okay, you know. But Maureen was really my go-to, and so whenever, you know, once a week we'd get together and I'd you know, talk things through with her. But for some time, because of the nature for me of the embodied experience, I experienced purging. That was my thing. And like the first time we were able to, we went for a drive, you know, she said, I think we should just get you outside. We should just, you know, go for a drive. We had to make these little pit stops along the way, you know. I'd be like, stop the car, you know, and I'd be out, and okay, back in, and we'd drive a bit, okay, stop the car. I mean, not everybody has this experience, obviously, but some people do have very different and strange experiences that are very much an embodied piece. And it's just very helpful to have somebody who knows what they're doing with you and can then help begin the healing process. There were many other lifetimes that I tapped into, and others that I've had spontaneous recall to when I've visited certain places. Sedona set off a whole load of stuff for me just by touching the land. Just, you know, I could hear children's voices, I could see women grinding corn in the stones, and I was looking at these in the rocks, and I was like, oh, they used to store grain over here, and over here there was a river here, you know, and then come to find out, oh yeah, there was. You know, sometimes we can actually put things to real events, and that's wonderful when we can do that, but not always. And that's, for me, it isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is the healing, is the clearing and the, you know, moving that through. And what we were doing, Maureen and I, you know, these follow-up sessions using regression hypnotherapy, it was really to continue exploring that pain and trauma, to bring it up for healing. And of course, that forgiveness of self, because ultimately, with everything that we're up to, it's looking to that original separation that we perceive we are separate from source, and forgiving that at that deep, deep level. And so my first experience of and connecting to past life work, yes, it had been spontaneous initially, but then we did a number of sessions. Something of this nature, when it's so deep like this, it's not done with one. You know, I embarked on like a course, and we would do these, you know, weekly for quite some time. And then what that did is it's like it really opened things up for me to embark on a much more deeper spiritual awareness for myself, but also more metaphysical, more wild experiences, wouldn't you know? And then some of the things that especially in our times currently that have been coming through, something that I'd healed a while back but was very much aware of, are when we have these memories from catastrophic events, not just things like witch burning or drownings, but literally a whole continent collapsing, you know, or whole worlds being blown. We hold that in our collective consciousness, we really do, and we are going through times that are really bringing these to the surface for people. COVID was a real triggering point for a lot of people to begin to feel so concerned that it was beyond their current experience. You know, the overwhelm of fear, the overwhelm of something bad's really going to happen, because you know we've had these in our experiences of other lives, other times, and so I'm finding that, you know, much of these are in need of healing for all of us, and things like, yeah, with the local fires that we had, you know, very traumatic for people, and yes, all of those coming up. I thought I'd mention to you too, if you're interested to, you know, do a little more further research, Barbara Hanklau's work is really wonderful in some of this field, and there's a very, very lovely young hypnotherapist who, she's very photogenic, and she's on Gaia TV, Sarah Bressman-Cosme, who does a lot of the quantum hypnotherapy, and she is finding with her clients in particular that there are these stories, but very, very similar from many different people of kind of a fall of Lemuria, fall of Atlantis, and those are all coming up to the surface as we're going through these very difficult and changing times. And certainly when I've done recent LBL experiences for people, we have definitely touched on some of those things. So, you know, just to say that there is that often that we have, these fears of catastrophe, and it's no wonder, because they're somewhere there in our lifetimes. I wanted to touch on a piece again about using and why we use the tool of forgiveness. And certainly with past life regression work, the model for forgiveness for healing, because when we access the story, we're looking really at the lesson. People do get very interested in, well, who was I, and what are the details? Was I this famous character or whatever? But that's not what's important. The story itself is really not as valid as the lessons and the impact, what's gone on here that's been left with you. And so that idea of feeling the emotions associated with the event, as I say, you gotta feel it to heal. And then we withdraw energy from that story or that lifetime. We bring compassion, we bring empathy to it. We reframe, we look at the whole truth of this, that we're not victims. Nobody is a victim here. It feels like it, it felt like it, but to gently and lovingly bring ourselves to that greater picture, that overview of, okay, well, what's going on here? Like I had to do for my own experience, not to get so tugged into the story of how this had happened to me, or no, what was this truly about, and why now? How is it relating to what's going on in my life? And so looking at these connections and then working those through, and what's been gained, because always there's such a huge gain. There's just such a lot for us to gain from pulling these experiences together and then healing. And then, of course, integrating. Now, integration, it's not done just within the session. It can take, some time. I usually say to people, I'm going to send you an audio, but don't just play it, tomorrow. Give it a little while. Let yourself take it in. It's always a really good idea to spend time in nature, to have restful time, to hydrate after these experiences. But we need that integration time for it then to fully come in. And then sometimes more healing comes. There's stuff that will come up often in the dream time. And the experience becomes even more rich and enriched by that capacity to open up that heart, open up more to come through in understanding and even downloading, that information. So anytime we do any kind of meditative experience, our posture is really important. And the best posture that I know that works for people is feet firmly on the floor, back erect, and then hands just softly in your lap. Yeah, please. Yeah, go wherever you need to sit here. And so I think for us today, let's just enjoy some relaxation time. I will for sure see how far we can take you. First of all, I want to make sure everyone can hear me, and I'll try and keep my voice at this volume, if that works. Just be aware of your own breath. Just allow yourself to settle. Noticing and being aware of sounds in the room, the sounds within, the sense of your breath. And just feel a sense of openness and willingness to explore and to have fun. Nothing too serious today. Let's just explore. Let's just have fun with this. And the more relaxed, the more calm that you feel, the deeper you can go. And the deeper you can go, the more relaxed and calm you're going to feel. And so just love your breath. Just breathing in joy as you breathe in. And let's breathe out compassion as you breathe out. And then breathe in trust. And breathe out love. And we'll wash the space that we're all in with that joy, compassion, trust, love. Let's just compare the mind to the surface of a quiet pool, a lake. On the surface, everything seems peaceful, but below there's so much going on. And my voice can be as a breeze whispering in the trees along that lake shore. Be guided by your own higher self. And you may at any time go with that higher self, even while listening to me. And you'll discover that your subconscious will be listening to me, and you can be off somewhere else at the same time. All is healing, all is done in love. But beginning to flow easily, effortlessly. It's as if you're going deeper, deeper within, deeper into your own heart center. And the journey can be peaceful and a very lovely flow towards the center within. Going deep into your own energetic heart center, connecting to heart wisdom, to divine love. When we ignite the heart, it can bring us home. We can see through the eyes of the immortal soul, bringing greater enlightenment of our conscious mind. As the breath flows and you inhale, just bring within you that peace and calm that we're sharing in the space. And every exhale, releasing tensions, letting go the stress of the day. And it becomes easier to release deeply with every inhale and exhale. Sense the wonderful stillness spreading like a feeling of warmth through your body. And you're relaxing deeply, deeper, more comfortable, more at peace. And invite connection with your own higher self, Holy Spirit, your divine essence. Imagining a stream perhaps of golden light flowing from an unseen source above. This light flowing down naturally over you and bringing with it a calm connection to your own higher self, the all-knowing self. And just sending a moment of appreciation and gratitude to your own divine self, forging that link, opening your heart so that higher wisdom can flow through. Feel that swell of gratitude, sending it to your own higher self, divine self. There's nothing you have to do, nothing you have to try. Just be. Just feel the body relaxing more and more. As we bring the mind more and more in tune with the rhythms of your own heart wisdom. Physically more and more relaxed, as muscles in the forehead, eyes and face become so relaxed. And just imagining that soothing light pouring through you, pouring down. Just follow it as it flows, bathing your cheeks, the jawline, releasing all the tension from the jawline, relaxing everything in its path. Soothing muscles, easing out tensions, slowly releasing, letting go. Leaving whatever it touches with a healthy glow. Feel the relaxation as it moves into the neck and the shoulders. The light seeks out the tension like an area of relative darkness, so easily dispersed by the light. Muscles relaxing. Upper body relaxing more. That light pouring through into the heart space. And with every breath you deepen down. A little more, a little more. And waves of light streaming down from above, taking you deeper and deeper within, towards your center, to the core. Muscles in the chest relaxing. Calmness descending further down into the abdomen, flowing into all of the organs. That golden light, bringing with it a healthy glow to every organ in the body, so that all functions optimally, in harmony. Breathing into it, feeling now that all is well, allowing that sense of peace and deep-centeredness to grow. Just breathing into it. The deeper you go, the better it feels. The better it feels, the deeper you can go. Deeper and deeper within. More relaxed, calm, peaceful. At every level of your being, you are filled with the energy of the golden light as it flows freely through you. More open, more receptive to that relaxing, cleansing and calming influence that the light brings. Perhaps you can feel now the relaxation flowing all the way down the spine. Shoulder blades relaxing, and the deep muscles in the back and lower torso. Relaxation flowing all the way into the base of the spine, relaxing deeply, deeply down, all the way down. Taking in another breath, deep breath. Just feel gentle waves of light and relaxation flowing through all the way down. Now beginning to feel muscles in the upper legs relax. Relaxation moving into the calves and the very tips of the toes. The flow of light and relaxation all the way from the top of the head to the tips of your toes, bathing in that sensation. There's nothing you have to do. Just breathe, just be, just enjoy that deep relaxation sensation. Now I invite you to imagine yourself moving out and away from this room, drifting, flowing, going towards a mountain meadow on a beautiful, warm, sunny day. Soft, warm currents of air surround you. You feel weightless, drifting, floating. You're carried without effort. Gentle, warm currents of air caressing you. Little fleecy white clouds And you begin to pass the mountains and drop down lower and lower. And you see a beautiful meadow in the valley, dropping down a little more, drifting down into the meadow. The meadow encircled by trees and dense vegetation. These tall, majestic trees standing as sentinels, protecting the center of the meadow. An inner sanctuary. You're drifting, you're floating. And you approach the meadow. This place, a sanctuary to you. You find the way in which you can pass and enter this sacred space. Drifting and floating, making your way into the center of the meadow. Shafts of sunlight shine down through leaves on the trees. Rich and fragrant, scent of cedar, of the earth. And the leaves are rustling in a gentle breeze. Branches swaying softly to and fro, just ushering you, welcoming you, as you float to the center where the deep green grass, so soft, you lie down, safe here. It's like you feel yourself sink deeply, feeling the earth, Gaia holding you, nurturing you. You're safe here. And perhaps you care to send from your beautiful heart appreciation and gratitude to the earth herself. Resting in the comfort and tranquility of the meadow, it's as if you are in a void of space and time. Time flows as a river passing by as we move through it, sometimes with the flow, not resisting the flow, just letting yourself go as you drift aimlessly without care or concern. That special place within, feeling your inner light shining. It will seek out only truth and bathe you in that truth, that inner knowing. Resting in this peaceful place, it's easy to go twice as deep, twice as relaxed. Energy and rhythms of your body more synchronized. The mind lighter, clearer. And the body attuning. So relaxed, so comfortably, calm. You can accept or reject anything given here today. Remember to follow your own heart wisdom. You're feeling yourself detaching more and more in a very safe and relaxing way. There is a soothing light, sunlight entering your head, leaving your feet, awakening that light within. See how it causes a beautiful light of protection to emanate from you, surrounding you, enclosing you in a protective bubble, a luminous shield that keeps you safe. Its strength reinforced by the energy of your own guides or higher beings, those that watch over you, and that are here today to help you. But feeling protected and secure, you are better able to receive messages, understanding, inspirations from your own divine self, your higher self, in your heart wisdom, to bring you insight, security, comfort during this time of exploration into spiritual life. Through the avenue of the heart, all things are revealed to you. With this new insight comes growth and understanding from experiences you only thought you had misplaced. And breathing into it. And you may begin now, going back, looking into the deep recesses of the mind, to the time you were around 18 years old, to a pleasant or happy memory, a neutral memory perhaps. You may hear voices or see people or images. For some, you'll simply have a sense of feeling, colours or energy. It does not matter how you perceive this. You are the observer, the experiencer. But here, sensing, feeling into being 18 years old. What experience? What do you perceive? Allow yourself to let it unfold. Just noticing, just being the observer at this time. Now, let's go back a little further. Back to a younger, much younger time. And just gently coming away from the 18-year-old. Going back to a time of being 5 or 6 years old. Again, a neutral or happy memory. Just look and listen, sense the experience, reaching deep down, embracing it. Five or 6 years old. Maybe there's a special companion, a playmate. Just being the observer, sensing and feeling into the experience. And embrace the experience, bringing it with you. We're going to go further. Further back, like looking through images in a photograph album. Back to 4, then 3, then 2, and further even, to the time of birth, and back even beyond this, to that safe, warm place, a secure place. And you may recall this time of forming, of growing, a time of movement, a time of preparation. Resting now as if you're in a void of space and time. Time flows as a river passing by, and you move through it, sometimes with the flow, not resisting the flow, letting yourself go as you drift aimlessly without care or concern. Feeling and sensing images, thoughts or feelings. And you'll see more, accept more, and have greater understanding of what you see and feel. We're going to a safe place, a secure place. Nothing can harm you. This is a good time, a growing time. And you're going into a very beautiful blue mist. Hues of blue swirling all around you. You may sense, feel, or see the colours. All the different blues in this mist that swirls around. Trust, this energy of trust and understanding. The blue mist, a doorway to the heart, to the infinite. Resting and listening to ancient echoes, quiet movement. Deeply peaceful. Opening up to the remembrances of your innermost feelings, your heart wisdom. Through the avenue of the heart, all things, all knowing, all memories. The Akashic records, stored in the chamber of the divine heart. Let it be revealed. Embracing the feeling, reaching deep within. Invite your own divine self, your higher self, to guide the experience, the lifetime, the emotion, the story that requires releasing, healing. And just feel peace around you as you look out towards light. And you're going, flowing, moving towards that light, merging, converging with the light. Light surrounds you, protecting your being. You're flowing into trust and love. And the life energy is flowing through you now. This is something you want. It is here. It is now. And as you mentally look down towards your feet, being aware of what you're wearing on your feet. This different experience. What does it feel like? Perhaps you have a sense of something. What do you perceive as the observer? Let the story unfold. Allow insights and information to filter through. What you need to see, re-experience, or understand. Notice, in this experience, is it day or is it night? And as you come up from looking at your feet, perhaps you'll notice clothing. Or maybe you have a sense of something. Insights, information. And this experience of a time, of a story, of a life, what is there to take, to heal? Let us move and take in all the different sounds and colours and experience. You'll find you have all the time that you need to bring with you information, understanding, all collected and able to be downloaded as you need it. What is the purpose? What have you gained? What's made you happy? And if you are willing, invite your own higher self, your divine aspect, to show you how you exited that life. What events led to a transition or a passing? Is there shadow to heal, old emotions? Feel the assistance and support surrounding you. Perhaps there are those who played with you in this lifetime, those you loved, those you did not, those that wronged or hurt. All players in that lifetime. You may sense or recognize someone who's still with you now. And if you are able to, look into the eyes of these players and simply bless them. Forgive them as you forgive yourself. They are light as you are light. And we offer up for release anything that is still with you. Asking your divine assistant, your higher self, to assist you with this in the most perfect way for you. It might come later in the dream time, or in a place of safety and comfort. You have opened yourself up for support, for love, and for higher guidance, for clearing of any emotions or shadows, to be done in a space with love, with light, at the most appropriate time for you. But most importantly, forgiving self for any perceived wrongdoing. They are light as you are light. And that light extends as you acknowledge that light surrounding, all being bathed in that divine, abundant love and light, the very nature of your being. And we invite divine presence of love to wash away all fear, all anger, all sadness. You have all the time you need for this. Open to the truth of who you really are, that this is done in the most perfect way for you, whether in this moment or at the time that is right for you. All perfectly orchestrated by your own higher self, your divine self. Know that whatever has come for you will be taken care of by your own higher self, given in willingness and truth. And in this moment, when you're ready, coming back through the blue mist, back through the avenue of the heart, where all your wisdom and truth is stored, where all things are revealed to you. For you bring understanding and wisdom back with you. Back through the blue mist of truth and understanding. Coming back to the room and the sounds in the room. The healing and good work that you can accomplish will always stay with you, etched in your consciousness and manifested in the human experience. Trust in the knowing of divine timing and perfect orchestration for you. And coming back here, more and more present, gently engaging with the physical body. Sensing a relaxation and calmness in your physical body. Connecting to the breath. And let the breath anchor you and ground you back into the space, back into the chair. And trust that anything unfinished, anything that is there for you, will reveal itself in divine timing, in the most perfect way. Pulling your energy all back to you now, with a full deep breath. Connecting into the body. Wriggling your feet and toes. Slow movement, gentle movement. making sure you're fully present, coming back into the now. Oh Lord, oh. Okay. That's your wake-up call. Sorry about that. Never mind, Nikki, don't worry.
Ow.
So we only had 30 minutes, and it was really just a little snippet of the experience and the possibilities. So hopefully, even if you just felt relaxed, you got a little something out of that. Are there any questions? Anything that anybody wants to ask?
So for me, I kind of got stuck on the path from like age 2 forward to like, I guess like entering the blue mist. Like if you see myself as a fetus.
Oh,
But then
awesome.
like, then I just kind of dissolved. And there was just something
Something there, maybe.
that caused me to just stare at this power outlet.
Oh.
Is the power outlet smiling at me, or is it just like, oops? And I know that sounds weird, but
It's fine. It's totally fine.
just, yeah, like,
It's not as easy to do anything in a group experience. The wonderful thing is that when you do it one-to-one, you're for myself or any hypnotherapist will engage with you and will check in, and we have a conversation about what's happening, and we're able to move past resistance, because that's usually what comes up, big resistance, and we work with that, and we work through that and move through that, and it's just a lot easier when it's a one-to-one experience, because we'd have looked at that and gone, okay, what's going on there for you? And we'd have explored how to get through that and how to get past that, because resistance is most common. Everybody usually has that of some kind. But yeah, if anybody got a full experience, I'd be really surprised, because it's really hard in a room of this nature. But thank you for sharing. Yeah. Any other questions, or are you all ready to go to bed now?
Do you have business cards with you?
I do, all the cards, and if anybody would like to kind of get on I'll send out emails, and I can then send you links to my channel with further information. So if you give me your email address, I'll be happy to send you more info. And a little bit more too. If you want to go to the RVML site to check into Life Between Lives and the quantum hypnotherapy work that I do, there's a whole video on there, isn't there, Nikki?
On our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So if you just go to our website, and you'll see the YouTube icon, click that. It was around September 20th, I think is what it was.
Gosh,
you
you've
did
got
the Life Between Lives.
You've got a great memory.
I got that.
I can't, did you? There's a question from the gentleman at the back.
Yeah, if we are vessels and we're driven evolutionary mindset, what's the benefit of that vessel being erased each time we're born? Instead of,
Yeah.
they say like the Neanderthal had a very large, where we have a very large cortex. They had a very large, I forget this part of the brain, which holds memory and instinct.
Yeah.
They were able to survive 250,000 years compared to, you might not last another 10,000. But on the evolutionary thought, why not remember all of our past lives? Why get erased each time we're born?
I don't have an answer to that. There are many different theories around that. Course in Miracles has its own discussion on that, and other religions have different thoughts and discussions around that. What I do know is that with intent and with willingness, as we begin to awaken, as I have done, we can access the parts that are relevant. Honestly, I think just for myself, I have had experience of looking at like hundreds of images, like seeing a movie, and different lifetimes, each one being one image, like just literally hundreds. And when at one point in my life I had this experience, and it's like it's not necessary to remember every single piece of these experiences for me. But what was important was to pull up and heal what was necessary, and to keep healing and forgiving that which I need to work with. I do know there are many masters that can recall, many of their lifetimes, but there's, I don't know. I don't have all of the answers for that.
Why not recall the very important things?
Well,
Really important, like how to make a wagon wheel, or
Yeah.
what does it mean when a bird sings a certain way?
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to people thousands of years ago, they really knew what was going on around them way more intensely than we
Yeah.
do. Just the wind, the animals.
Yeah.
Why, if we're going to extract memory, why not, something really like, I'm the guy that made dynamite.
Yeah, which
that's
is,
the way I do it.
those attributes that I spoke of. Yeah, what a lovely thing to be able to pull from that. And I think we are more awakening now. And I think we are coming into times where, if we look at the children that are being born, they're coming in with incredible knowledge and wisdom and understanding, far more than a lot of us. than
They don't do as well as people or kids did 50 years ago.
Well, I'm talking about little ones that are coming in right now. I'm not, there's, it's interesting, isn't it?
It really is.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In healing, when you bring these things back up and you can see them clearly, in your experience, can be as simple as saying, I forgive this, I release this, I'm healing this thing that happened to me. It can be as simple as just, praying on it and saying, I healed this, I'm healing this.
Sometimes it can, but often it's about, going through and the feeling of it, the emotional, it's not like we have to relive the event. We don't have to do that. But to clear, if you like, it's clearing that unprocessed grief is most often what it is.
Bring it up.
Because when you bring that up, it can be released in that moment. It's like any time we grieve, just in our normal experience, the more that we engage with that, we're embracing it, we're surrendering into it, if you like, as opposed to closing down, which is what we're so used to doing. And so surrendering into it, the allowance, that really, really helps. But sometimes we have to keep, we do kind of what we think we're done with, but then, hey, there's another piece to it, or there's another facet. So
Right.
it's all unique to every individual's journey, that healing of our own, our own wounds, our own separation, if you like.
Do you know the number of people like in the world that can be hypnotized and how many can't? I mean, they say there's just some that can, some can't.
No
Some are
clue.
really easy.
Truly, I don't actually. But in my experience, I've not had anyone that can't be hypnotized. Usually, you've got to try different approaches and different methods. It's not one fits everybody, but that's down to sometimes some people have to have a few sessions just to get to be able to go into that space and place. Depends on the amount of resistance that we have at that unconscious level. But yeah, so sometimes it takes a little bit more consideration and time and effort put in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
everybody.
much. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Great share.
Thank you.
Thank
You're very welcome.
Yeah.